Hello there you lovely wet mammals, and welcome to another episode of the Capo Plays. Now today we have another controversial subject on our hands in the form of SeaWorld Tycoon. Now this game was released in 2003, which along with its sequel in 2005 was around the time people just thought water parks were like theme parks, just cool places to go, but they have fish there as well. Since then there's been a ton of news stories and documentaries about the idea of cruelty in sea parks, specifically around the large water mammals like killer whales, also known as orcas. The two most popular subjects to use are Shamu and Tilikum. Now Shamu was at her peak in the 60s. She was captured in 1965 and died after only 6 years in captivity. More recently we have Tilikum, who was born in 1981, captured in 1983, and only died still in captivity in January of this year. Now Tilikum is a hot-headed little fish who killed no less than 3 people during his time at SeaWorld, the latest being one of the trainers who he dragged underwater and drowned in 2010. And as you would expect, that was the end of his career. Oh wait, no it wasn't. He was back in the pool a year later and continued to perform up until the day he grew too ill to perform anymore. Now I'm sure there's dozens of documentaries and stuff floating around about this subject, but one of the most controversial and probably one of the most popular was Blackfish, released in 2013. This film documentary thing follows the story of Tilikum, and I would highly recommend it. My personal opinion on the matter is pretty simple. 1. Killer whales have evolved to live in this, not this. 2. If you keep a killer whale locked up against its will, then have people jump in and swim around with it, people are going to die. And 3, killer whale. Okay, so now the elephant in the room's been addressed, we can sit back and try to enjoy this gorgeous looking game. It'll be interesting to see if the game deals with any of the subjects like cruelty and appropriate care of the animals. Somehow I doubt it, but hell, at least we don't have to worry about Shamu rocking up and murdering everybody. That sort of thing doesn't happen anymore, right? Anyway, to the game. So this game opens up with some super jumpy Caribbean-inspired steel drums, exactly the kind of music that screams out to me, welcome to our park full of sad hostage fish and mammals who are exploited on a daily basis just so some greedy bastards can grease their palms. You know what I mean? After that we're introduced to the scenario screen, and by the way this is the only scenario screen. This game has only 12 scenarios, most of which take on a tutorial feel, as you'll see in a second. As well as this, there are only 3 maps to choose from, and to be honest, who gives a shit? After you complete the scenarios, the only gameplay option left is to pick one of the 3 maps to play in sandbox mode. So enough of my jibber jabber, let's crack on with scenario 1. Welcome to SeaWorld. Don't go snooping behind any doors, you little cunt. Anyway, I must warn you, I'm only planning on playing through the first set of scenarios for this video. I have no intention of playing any further. After the loading screen we are greeted to mission 1, and our first objective is to build a Shamu adventure attraction. Well guys, that's all for today's episode, thanks for watching, and don't forget... Okay, let's give this a try. So all we have to do to finish mission 1 is to build the attraction, build 3 Shamu themed stores to capitalise on the cruelty, and finally have 35 people visit the attraction in a day. Seems pretty straightforward. I start off this round by having a look around and clicking on stuff to see what kind of options are available. The first thing you notice if you've ever played a Roller Coaster Tycoon game before is the distinct lack of not only customizable options, but just a lack of things to control in general. Although some of the windows may look in depth, there really isn't a whole lot to get your teeth into. You can, however, click on not only animal enclosures to see how they're being run, but also the animals themselves to get an idea of how they're doing and what they may need. We'll talk a little bit more about that soon. One kind of interesting feature in the game is a little SeaWorld encyclopedia of different animals and some information about them. This is strictly educational and serves no beneficial purpose to the game, except if you really want to hear what sound a false killer whale makes. Majestic. Anyway, that's enough procrastination, and after putting the admission price of the toilets up to $12, I set about completing my goals. Firstly, I built a bunch of Shamu themed shops like asked, then I found a nice area to build the attraction. Sadly, I couldn't for the life of me work out how to rotate buildings, or even if you can, and I could not be asked to check the options. So boom, I placed the show here, and because I know how popular this show's going to be, I immediately make a healthy sized waiting line. After that, it was simply a case of waiting for 35 morons to go and see the show, which took an awfully long line because some idiot had made the queue a mile long. I finished mission 1 in about 8 minutes. 5 of those were just waiting for people to go see Shamu. Let's hope that mission 2 has a bit more to offer. Mission 2, if you can believe it, had an even more simple premise. All I had to do this time was build 2 staff rooms, hire some staff, and get your rubbish rating down to 10. Keeping that firmly in mind, I built 2 staff rooms, one either end of the park, hired a shit ton of staff, especially cleaners, obviously. Then I built a ton of bins around to reduce litter, and boom, it was onto the wait until the objective is complete section, which in this mission meant staring at this number for 5 minutes until it battled its way down to 10. Done. Mission 3 actually offers something mildly entertaining as it's based around animals and it's a bit more varied. The objectives are: build 3 animal attractions including a turtle point, get animal happiness above 4, and get the park's beauty above 4. And just to clarify, by above 4, this game actually means 4. So I get started by smothering my park with flowers and ornaments until my beauty level has been achieved. Next, I build a bunch of animal attractions, including a turtle point to look at turtles, a shark encounter to look at sharks, and a flamingo exhibit so the sharks have something to eat. With 2 missions now complete, I struggle for a while to work out how to make the animals happy. The only adjustable option in the menu is the stock resupply level, which I didn't understand. I did use the animal feelings box to try and work out what was wrong, but I just still couldn't figure out how to fix it. I'd already hired a bunch of vets and animal specialists to care for them, so why were the ungrateful little bastards so unhappy? Oh, I see. So when you click on the enclosure, there are icons for you to call the vet or call the specialist. These options are always available, and it seems don't really achieve anything specific. So I went back and forth around all my enclosures and kept repeatedly calling out the vets and specialists. After about 30 seconds of doing this over and over, boom, success. I did say this mission was a little bit more varied. I did not say you were going to have crusty knickers over it. Mission 4, which will be our final mission today and my final mission ever in this game, is something of a challenge to see if you're ready to take on the gargantuan task of running your own water-themed cruelty park. You have to take all the skills you've learned up until this point and put them all to the test. That being said, the only 2 goals in the mission are to have 200 bipedal meat sacks in your park, and for that park to have a rating of 3 stars. And this time it's a rating of 3 stars, not above 3 stars like before, so if above 4 stars actually means 4 stars, then a rating of 3 stars probably means 2.5 stars. Anyway, enough of me being a prick. After scouting around my park and taking the challenge into consideration, I decided I was going to build the most basic park in the world. By that I mean I will literally only build precisely what I need to improve and nothing more. So the first thing I did, keeping my trading in mind, was to build a fuck ton of bins and benches to get my park rating up through cleanliness and comfort. Then I built a staff room and hired a ton of staff because making a profit is not part of the mission. Then it was onto the important stuff. To ensure the success of my park, I built 1 toilet, 1 Shamu attraction, 1 arcade. Then I sat around for 10 minutes looking at stuff I couldn't afford until I made enough money. Then I built the coup de grace. The high-intensity journey to Atlantis. High intensity in this case being anything equal to or greater than 3 stars, I guess. Sorry, not stars. 3 intensity blocks? Anyway, that was pretty much it. After I built one of everything I needed, it was another case of sitting around and waiting for my goal to achieve itself. Honestly, the only other thing I had to do was call out a repairman to fix my broken down and heavily smoking Snack cart. What? I mean, so I sat there watching the game play away and fast forward, and at around 120 guests I gave up and put the game neatly back on my shelf. Well, that was SeaWorld Tycoon. Taking that off, looked like a total twat. That was SeaWorld Tycoon. As you can probably tell, it was nothing really to write home about. It was essentially a stripped back version of a roller coaster tycoon game, but with about 90% of the content taken out. Honestly, I don't really think this game served its purpose. It didn't make me feel like I was creating a SeaWorld of adventure. Instead, it was more of a case of build whatever building the customers want you to build, make sure none of them are on fire, and every now and then click on the animal enclosures, press a certain button to make sure nobody's taking photos of a crying turtle and sending it into the daily bullshit. I mean, only 1 year later, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 was rocking up with the Soaked expansion, which is better than this game on its own. Anyway, I know this video has been a little bit abrupt, but there really isn't that much to say about this game. It's pretty boring, and if you've ever played a Roller Coaster Tycoon game, then this is pretty much pointless. That being said, thank you all very much. I hope you all have a happy and productive day. Why not try and get that fence painted like you said you were going to do last week? Do it tomorrow.